MeMonster.
Chapter 336. Return Stone changed to Regression Stone for clarity. Cower of Time. This was where they first met. Are you the fairy of regression? That was the first thing the man said when I opened my eyes. I remembered being unable to say a word, too thrown off by the word fairy. After all, it was obvious to anyone looking that I wasn't a fairy. Answer me! Are you the fairy of regression? However, the man was persistent. You think this is funny? The sudden summoning surprised me, but I quickly understood the man's circumstances. He must have climbed to the top of the tower alone and found the regression stone. He must think it would let him go back in time just like its name suggests. Who the hell are you? Why did you pop out of the regression stone? I won't ask a third time. Answer! The man raised the spear in his hand. The killing intent emanating from him woke me up. I stopped daydreaming and surveyed the area. I was unfamiliar with the surrounding scenery. However, just like always, I assumed I was reincarnated inside the seed that Ball planted, the tower. I'll ask a third time. Who are you? Seeing that I wasn't talking, the man kindly gave me another chance. I smiled without replying, just like before. I didn't mean to smile, but it came out naturally when I saw the man's otherworldly appearance. I had wandered across many worlds, and his physical appearance ranked among the top. I'll ask a third time. 1, 2, 2.5, 2.5 and a half, 2.5 and a half and a half. Thanks to him, I was able to loosen up and raise my body. When I got up, the man flinched and took a few steps back. I'll ask first. No, I'll be the one to ask. Where are we? I asked the man. The Tower of Time, the man muttered back. Oh. After destroying yet another world and aimlessly drifting through space, I had once again been summoned to another world by the selfishness of a human. By now, I was all too familiar with the development. It's your turn to answer me. Are you the fairy of regression? The man, Shin Myung-chul, asked me. I turned my head slightly and examined Shin Myung-chul closely. His eyes shone like gems that fell underwater. Even his long, unkempt hair couldn't conceal his good looks. I'm not a fairy, but a devil, I answered honestly. However, Shin Myung-chul wasn't taken aback in the slightest. His reaction surprised me. Fairies and devils are pretty much the same thing. Shin Myung-chul was a man of strong character, both before and after he went back in time. But when I first met him, he was lost from the guilt and anger of being unable to protect his loved one. So, devil of regression, are you able to send me back in time? Shin Myung-chul wished to go back in time to change his past. It's possible. I nodded my head without much thought. In that instant, Shin Myung-chul smiled like a little kid and approached me as if to hold my hands in appreciation. But there's a condition. Condition? That's fine. No matter what it is, I will... Once you go back in time, I will be beside you, annoying you the whole time. At the time, I took a more backhanded approach. I didn't think to stop him or persuade him otherwise. I had given up before even trying. Or perhaps I had resigned myself to this development. No matter the case, I knew humans weren't capable of being persuaded by a stranger. You will be beside me? That's right. If you don't want that, then there's nothing I can do. Humans who chose to borrow the power of a devil always came to regret it in the end. Watching their world being destroyed by their own hands, they hit their chests in mockery of their foolishness and cried out in sorrow and anger. I don't care. At that moment, I concluded Shin Myung-chul would end up the same way. Great. But before we go back in time, there are a few things I need to warn you about. Go ahead. The young Shin Myung-chul was proud and arrogant. As I had experienced all sorts of people in the worlds I had been summoned to, I ignored Shin Myung-chul's character flaws and began my explanation. The regression stone is the medium for the summoning of Ball. It will transport him from the transcendent plane in which he lives into this plane. If you go back in time using the regression stone's power, Ball will undoubtedly descend in your world. That is the price you have to pay to go back in time. What you experience will not be a miracle, but a calamity that can destroy your world. It doesn't matter. As I expected, Shim Young Chol was selfish, just like all the other regressors who wished for the same thing. You will regret it. However, there was one thing that was different. I won't regret it. If Ball descends on my world, I'll just beat him up. That was confidence. Shim Young Chol possessed confidence befitting his strength. With it, he grasped the regression stone without hesitation. Just like that, he went back to when he was 17, to the world where his lover and family were alive. Shin Young Cho cried tears of joy. With knowledge of the future, he grew rapidly. In just 2 years, he became a powerful hero capable of protecting his loved ones. 3 years later, Shin Myung Chol married his lover. A year after that, he had a child he never did in his previous life. But fate couldn't be changed so easily, and his happiness didn't last forever. Shim Young Chol's wife died from an illness not long after giving birth. Shim Young Cho cried until his tear glands dried up. The grief he felt was stronger because of how long he loved her. However, Shim Young Chol had a son who needed his father. His grief was quickly replaced by a desire to protect his son. Just like that, 30 years went by. Shin Young Chol finally witnessed his son becoming a father. Shin Young Cho named his grandson Shin Jong Hak. I watched over Shin Young Chol the entire time. Originally, I was supposed to make preparations for Ball's descent, but unless it was absolutely necessary, I stayed by Shin Young Chol's side. Seeing the once self-centered man grow up to be a grandfather was both fascinating and beautiful. Of course, it wasn't that I didn't do anything. I had no choice but to fulfill my duty as Ball's host. I met Yeon Jun, who caught Ball's eyes, and formed the Chameleon Troupe. With him, I met kids like Yi Byul, Jane, and Kaita. I formed a family, just like Shin Myung Chol. I liked Yeon Jun because he reminded me of the person I loved in the past. I liked Yi Byul simply because she was cute. I liked Jane because of her two-faced nature, and I liked Kaita because of his one-dimensional personality. If possible, I wanted to stay with them as long as possible. But Ball didn't let me. The first seizure came abruptly. Ball rampaged in my body. Knowing that I was getting attached to Earth, he sought to destroy it using my incarnation body, without descending through the Demon Realm Gate.
Once enraged, Ball easily took over my body. However, his rampage ended in just a day. Shin Myung Chol had come to stop him. Just like he swore before returning to the past, Shin Myung Chol beat up Ball. But like a true villain, Ball chose to self-destruct. A third of the Korean peninsula was at risk of total destruction. Meanwhile, I watched Shin Myung Chol's decision inside Ball's consciousness. To my surprise, Shin Myung Chol did not hesitate in the slightest. If you can hear me, Ball, let me ask you for one last favor. Tell Jong Hak my story. That way, he won't become me. Help him achieve what I couldn't. Jong Hak is always saying he will become a great hero. I believe him. He will become the greatest hero of all time, even greater than me. Shin Young Chol left his will with me before forming a barrier with all his strength. He traded his life for the lives of millions. That was how the hero Shin Myung Chol met his fate. What do you think? I finished my quick story and turned to Shin Jong Hak. I had to summarize Shin Myung Chol's tale more than I would have liked to because of my body's condition, but since I passed a part of my memories to Shin Jong Hak with my magic power, he should be able to understand. Shin Myung Chol's act of sacrifice is lauded in textbooks as the epitome of heroism, but in truth, he was just taking responsibility for his past selfishness. Shin Jong Hak didn't say anything. With a stiff expression, he slumped his head and looked down at the ground. I chuckled and placed my hand on his head. Myung-chul left his inheritance in your body. You should know what to do. Looking at his face, I wasn't sure if he was listening. There was one last shocking truth I had to say, but I chose to keep it to myself. When I found out about it, even I was shaken. Sahyuk? Jin Sahyuk turned to me. I could see myself through the reflection in her eyes. Demonic energy was swaying around me, and my eyes were dyed red. I clearly did not have much time left. Are you ready? Jin Sahyuk nodded her head at my request. I endured the piercing pain in my body and made a bitter smile. I'm sorry, I would explain more, but I don't have time. The final truth, that this world is nothing more than a novel written by a certain man, would be buried with me. I only found out because I looked into Kim Ha-jin's head, so I didn't need to worry. It's fine. Jin Sahyuk got up with an expressionless face. Thanks. It had been far too long. It was frustrating to find out that the 500 years I suffered weren't even mentioned in the damn novel, but that didn't matter now. I no longer cared. I want to rest. After all, death would relieve me of all emotions. Chua! Yi Yun-jun swung his magic power. Tentacle-shaped magic power melted the ground and evaporated into the atmosphere. Against him, I used every single one of my gifts and creations: extraction, complete understanding of spirit power, random consolidation system, and the Desert Eagle. I always preferred quantity over quality. Even so, I couldn't penetrate Yi Yun-jun's defense. The Desert Eagle rusted away, my armor broke, Aether shattered, all because the temperature continued to fluctuate between scorching heat and biting cold. You have fascinating abilities. Amidst a piercing cold, Yi Yun-jun muttered nonchalantly. It was not a compliment, but a cynical expression of contempt. Yours is even more fascinating. The breath from my mouth froze white. Yi Yun-jun twisted his lips. Whew. I was keeping my head above water thanks to the orb of regeneration, but I knew I couldn't win against him. Rather, I purposely chose to use methods that couldn't defeat him. If I had attacked Yi Yun-jun from afar, my chances would have been much better. I might have killed him before he could react. In fact, that was how I had planned to approach him up until 3 hours ago. But in the end, I chose to face him head-on. This decision was made on a whim. I'm curious about something. Although moving my half-frozen lips hurt a lot, I managed to open my mouth. Sadly, Yi Yun-jun ignored me and shot his magic power. The heated beam of magic power pierced my shoulder. I used my gift, constraints, and amplifications to suppress my sensations. As a result, I didn't feel any pain. I looked into your past. It was then that Yi Yun-jun finally showed a reaction. He glared at me with eyes full of hostility. What you did to bring Yi Biao into the chameleon troupe, what you did to Yi Biao's parents to incite their fear for their daughter, how you turned Yi Biao's life into a living hell when she could have led an ordinary life. I continued to list everything that I had witnessed in the past, but my speech was not for Yi Yun-jun. I had no intention of persuading him. This world is not a novel, and I knew that the cliché of persuading a villain with smooth talk didn't apply to me. After all, humans don't change so easily. The reason Yi Biao's parents had to kill their daughter, I saw it all. It must have been fun. Yi Yun-jun smirked. This made me frown. Don't you feel guilty for what you did? Of course not. If it wasn't for me, Biao would have lived among those trash forever. Yi Yun-jun answered with confidence. I scoffed at unbelief. Why did you do it? I wanted to own her. His voice sunk to the ground. He sounded stiff like a block of wood. When people break, they become easier to own. That's all. He is like a perfect example of a two-dimensional villain I once read in a writing guidebook. A character who cannot and does not change no matter what, created for the sole purpose of becoming a villain. I looked at Yi Yanjun and forced a smile. It's like you're a character in a novel. Yi Yanjun shrugged and said, "Now it's my turn to ask. Why are you with Biel? What about Biel do you like?" "I love her." My answer was brief as well. I spoke with emotion and with confidence. "Love?" Yi Yanjun clenched his teeth. "Yeah, you know what that means, right? But maybe someone like you can't understand." The sound of teeth grinding rang out, and our conversation stopped there. Yi Yanjun gave off a much more powerful and violent magic power than before. Chua! His magic power turned into a bundle of tentacles. I didn't dare to count them. The grotesque strands either rose high in the sky or fell low to the ground before flying towards me. Gwa! Countless tentacles blocked my view. I knew I couldn't stop them. I would probably die here, though I could still resurrect with my unique skill. Then I realized my luck had once again activated. Coincidentally, somebody listened to your true feelings and understood them. Narrow escape from death, 8 out of 9, special stat, accumulation of luck becomes partly unlocked. The flashing alerts told me so.
Chapter 337. Reality Manipulation. An authority that allowed its user to interfere with the material world and manipulate reality itself. Jin Sahyuk realized she could kill Bel with her authority. All she had to do was manipulate the material that made up Bel. He was no longer human, but a container that held Bal, so transforming his body wouldn't be too difficult. But Jin Sahyuk hesitated. Old memories kept coming back. After meeting her end in Akatarina, she had reincarnated in a boring world called Earth. Her biological parents abandoned her before she could even memorize their faces. She went through the painful process of learning to walk and speak again in an orphanage. When she turned 3 and was finally getting used to Earth's language, Bel came to see her for the first time. "Oi!" Jin Sahyuk called Bel. Even as he experienced tremendous pain, Bel gave a sly smile, so characteristic of himself. "What, got something to say to me?" She had spent 25 years with Bel. Perhaps 25 years meant nothing to someone like Bel, but for an ordinary human like herself, 25 years was half her entire lifetime. "I do." Bel established himself as her teacher and helped awaken her authority. In a sense, he was like a male nanny, watching over her as she grew. He endured her quick-tempered and selfish personality without much complaint. Even if all that was just a build-up for this moment, right now, Jin Sahyuk felt the need to say something she had never said before. "Thank you." Bel's expression stiffened. But soon, a playful smile spread across his face, and he looked at Jin Sahyuk proudly. "No, I'm the one who should thank you." Bel's words served as a signal. Jin Sahyuk nodded and gathered her magic power. Now, it was time to grant Bel's wish. Gwang, gwang, gwang. A whirlwind of black magic power swirled like a storm around her. This was Jin Sahyuk's authority, able to melt and dismantle reality. She swung her hand, now tinged black like a spear. Chwack! Her hand pierced Bel's chest. It cut open his skin, broke his ribs, and reached his heart. His heart was beating vividly. Jin Sahyuk looked into Bel's eyes. Bel met her gaze and waited for his end. Jin Sahyuk closed her eyes and inhaled. 1, 2, 3. She counted in her head and opened her eyes again. Her entire body was overrun with magic power. She planned to invest her all in this final move. Bel gave her his last smile. "Please." Jin Sahyuk nodded. She had already made her decision. Without hesitation, she released her magic power into Bel's body. Gwang, 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 gwang. Her authority engulfed Bel.
Her magic power tore apart his veins and dove deeper into his body. The tornado of magic power soon reached the authority, magic power body, etched in the center of Belle's heart. Jin Sahyuk poured all her magic power into the heart. The goal of reality manipulation was to eliminate magic power body. At that moment, an unimaginable amount of pain struck Belle. However, he neither screamed nor squirmed. With a faint smile, he placed his hand on Jin Sahyuk's shoulder. Belle remained calm throughout the whole process. He simply looked at Jin Sahyuk with the eyes of a proud father looking at his daughter. Chwa! The movement of magic power quickened, and the human shell containing Belle began to fall apart. Patches of his skin turned to dust and disappeared into thin air. The bones, muscles, nerves, and organs underneath faded away as well. Goodbye. At the moment of Belle's death, Jin Sahyuk offered him her last words. Belle did not answer, but only smiled, a smile that seemed to belong to the happiest man on earth. She wished him to rest in peace, surrounded by only the happiest memories. However, suddenly a tremendous amount of magic power appeared at the spot where Belle had just disappeared. Quang! The magic power immediately spread outside the mansion and formed a dome-shaped barrier. The barrier caged not only Jin Sahyuk and Shin Jong-hak, but also the entire Leores Plaza. Even so, Jin Sahyuk remained calm. She knew who the magic power belonged to. Baal. The strongest of the evil gods, the rank 1 devil. He had broken out of his container and descended as a devil. I have waited for too long. Baal and Belle looked alike. Their appearances were almost identical, except for the horn on Baal's forehead and his crimson eyes. So, you are the one who granted my friend's wish. His voice vibrated in a way that no human could. Baal looked at Jin Sahyuk and smiled. Though the presence of the evil god was overwhelming, Jin Sahyuk stepped forward without fear. It's your turn to keep your promise. Promise. That's right. Or did you not hear about the promise? Of course I did. Baal shook his head. He then formed a rock and handed it to Jin Sahyuk. Take it. It's what you wanted, a stone that will transfer you to another dimension. Once you pour your magic power into this stone, a dimensional portal will appear. Your power is special, after all. Jin Sahyuk looked at the rock with suspicion, but the magical rock appeared authentic. According to Belle, Baal was a devil who kept his promises. By the way, what did you mean by my friend? Did you consider Belle your friend? Jin Sahyuk asked as she slid the rock into her pocket. 693 years is a long time for me. He's been with me all those years, and I reckon that qualifies him as a friend. Then you assume you are sad? Jin Sahyuk asked sarcastically. The word friend bothered her. What kind of person would enslave his friend for 693 years? He was a useful friend, but it's okay. 693 years was long enough. He can go. The one who truly wants to be with me is here right now. Baal smiled, looking into the distance. His gaze traveled to the wall that Chae Ne-yun and Jin Sahyuk had destroyed upon entering. Jin Sahyuk widened her eyes and followed Baal's gaze. In the darkness, she saw Yi-yun Jun. She noticed that one of his arms had been torn off from an apparent battle. What are you doing here? And where'd you lose your arm? Jin Sahyuk asked mockingly, causing Yi-yun Jun to glare at her. He answered, I've been betrayed. Huh? His answer was so random that Jin Sahyuk couldn't help but frown. England, Evendel's domain. Valak's army is causing an uproar across Europe. Germany has decided to retaliate, while Italy has chosen to respond more realistically. Next is Spain. Osteroff's army has appeared from inside Osteroff's barrier. We have breaking news. Gens are currently invading by sea. All citizens near the coast must evacuate.
Valak and the other hostile devils were rampaging all over the world. Ahein was watching the news on her smartwatch when she heard the sound of a belt tightening and turned her head. "All done. I'm finished," Evandel announced, clenching her fists. Ahein scanned the girl carefully. The hat Kim Hajin got her, the robe that improved resistance and adaptability, and the belt that exuded defense magic in response to enemy attacks. Everything was perfect.
"I see that you're dressed up, but are you sure you can do it?" Ahein asked carefully. Evandel's talent was now in full bloom, but to her teacher's eyes, she was still just a child who needed protection. "Yeah, I can do it." Despite her teacher's worries, Evandel nodded confidently. There was only one reason Evandel endured a period of loneliness to build her domain: to protect. Evandel wanted to protect Rachel, Hajin, her friends, and the good people and animals around the world. "I see," Ahein nodded proudly. "Then, get ready." "Okay," Evandel shouted. At the same time, Ahein and Evandel each summoned their spirit beasts. The pair stared at the demonic monsters beginning to appear on the horizon. Kim Hajin and the other heroes had not returned from the Demon Realm Gate yet, but that could not hold them back. They would have to win without the heroes' help. "Go," Ahein muttered, and the cardinal beast, Azure Dragon, appeared. Grrrr. The Azure Dragon revealed his gigantic figure and placed Ahein on his head. Meanwhile, Evandel got on a unicorn much smaller than the Azure Dragon. "Look over there! It's the Azure Dragon! There's also a unicorn! What wow!" Reporters, drones, camera crews, heroes, and citizens who had been waiting near Evandel's domain all turned their gaze to the pair. At the center of the attention of the eager and hopeful audience, Evandel cried out, "Let's go!" Her cute voice was full of determination. Rumble! Evandel's spirit beasts began to dash at their master's command toward the villains on the other side of the ocean. The footsteps of individual spirit beasts soon merged into one and became a giant roar that shook the earth. Demon Realm Gate, the Republic of Laeris after Baal's descent. Ugh. I opened my eyes. My back was against something soft, and the ceiling looked unfamiliar. Gulp. I swallowed hard and began thinking. I knew for sure that I hadn't revived. I would know if I did. The most likely explanation was that Boss, who had been listening in on our conversation, saved me. The fact that I was alive meant Boss defeated Yi Yeonjun and... "You up?" "Ah!" I turned to the voice in surprise. My heart almost burst, but I soon heaved a sigh of relief. It was Jane. She was sitting at the bedside in her original appearance, which I hadn't seen in a while. "Yes, I'm awake. Long time no see, Jane." "Yeah, it's been a while. I missed you. How are you feeling?" "Fine. More importantly, where's Boss?" When I asked about Boss, Jane smiled bitterly, drew the curtain, and pointed outside the window. I was speechless. The scenery outside the window was hellish. What is that? Laeris Plaza, where the Transnational Peace Conference should have been held, was surrounded by a huge barrier. A dark storm raged everywhere, and gargoyles and other creatures roamed the sky. As you can see, it's a mess. I managed to escape with you, but Kim Soo-ho, Chae Na-yeon, Yoon Sang-ah, and Boss, they're all stuck in there. Has Baal descended? Yeah, Jane nodded casually. It happened much quicker than we all expected. Bel's dead and Baal descended. Oh, and I heard about Yeonjun Si. I didn't know. Thanks for bringing me to my senses. I almost got persuaded by Yeonjun Si too. Jane beamed. Dazed, I stared at Jane before turning my gaze to the barrier that was likely formed by Baal. Is Boss in there? Yeah, she's waiting for you, probably. Then I turned my gaze to the corner of the room. My weapons were there. Aether, the Black Lotus uniform, Temujin's bow, and the pinnacle-grade artifact Ancient Hero Laerocus's Exorcism bow. I fixed them all. I used the regeneration orb or whatever it's called to fix them. Thank you. I got up from the bed and tried to approach my weapons. Sure. By the way, you have a nice body, Hajin. But then Jane said something odd. It was then I finally realized the cause of my sense of disharmony. I was completely naked. Thankfully, Aether, noticing my perplexity, flew at me and stuck to my body. Aether transformed into a piece of cloth and covered my vital area. I let out a dry cough and armed myself. First, I put on the Black Lotus uniform, then holstered Desert Eagle. Finally, I turned to the two bows. Temujin's bow, blessed by Horus, ancient hero Laerocus's exorcism bow. I had yet to synthesize the two weapons. Synthesis now seemed like a good time. You have activated level 10 synthesis, fusing a pinnacle-grade item with a pinnacle-grade item. The success rate is extremely low. If this was a game, what I was doing right now would be like combining two of the rarest items, so it was not surprising that the success rate was extremely low. My luck had always hurdled tasks that seemed impossible, however. Your luck has been activated. A tremendous amount of luck has increased the rate of success. Young Dwarf's dexterity has also responded. Golden confetti covered the system, and as a result, you have successfully synthesized Black Lotus bow from Temujin's bow, blessed by Horus, and ancient hero Laerocus's exorcism bow. With young dwarf's dexterity, you have created a world-class weapon. You earned SP. The pair of bows clung to each other and transformed into an even more powerful artifact. Its name was simple: Black Lotus Bow. As an artifact born of my skill and gifts, this bow was truly one of a kind. I scrutinized the bow's information. "Wow, what's that? It looks really good!" Jane exclaimed in admiration before I even finished reading the item information. I nodded with a small smile. "I think you're right. It is good." "Then are you ready to go?" I took a deep breath. Then I nodded. Yes, this could be the last battle. I no longer had any reason to conserve SP, Stigma's magic power, God-slaying bullet, or anything else. I vowed to stake my all. Let's go end everything.
Chapter 338. I walked to Ball's Barrier with Jane. The area was in total chaos. The Transnational Peace Conference's joyous atmosphere had been completely destroyed, and even key buildings like the Republic's presidential residence had been swallowed up. "It's only been a day since this barrier formed. It's swallowed almost half the capital. Do you have any plans to deal with it?" Jane asked. I shook my head. I had no plan, not even a good idea. I knew nothing about its setting, so its weakness was anyone's guess. I hadn't described Ball or his abilities anywhere in my novel. "Then what are you going to do?" "I'm not sure." I checked my SP and DP. I had 4,030 SP and an overflowing amount of DP. "Jane, do you know if this world has demon merchants?" "Oh yeah, I heard they live around the outskirts of the continent, but they might be on their way here considering what's going on." "Why? Do you have extra DP to spend?" "I do. Almost 1 million. "How?" Jane's eyes widened. "There's something called a luck bonus. Every time I get 100 DP, I get another 20 DP. Anyway, that's not important right now." I looked up at the dome-shaped barrier piercing the sky and took out the mystic key. "First, let's go inside." Are you sure that key will work? It's Ball's barrier after all." Jane doubted the mystic key's power. I couldn't blame her considering how tiny and insignificant it looked. Once I strengthen its ability a few times, it should be able to break a part of the barrier. At that moment, several footsteps sounded from the right. Jane and I turned our heads. To our surprise, Arenheim's knights were rushing toward us. "Who are they?" Jane shrugged. Hearing her, the leader of the knights stepped forward. "Can you really break a part of the barrier?" a woman's voice asked. The knight took off her helmet. I immediately recognized her. Iron, the knight commander who ordered me to escort Haran. She looked like she was on the verge of tears. No, I could see traces of tears around her eyes. She must have felt guilty for failing to protect her lord. "Yes, it should be possible," I replied, taking off my robe. When Iron saw my face, her eyebrows shot up in shock. "You are—" "Let's talk about that after we break open the barrier." I cut her off before she could finish. I cloaked the mystic key with Aether, and the key grew slightly larger. "Can that really open the barrier?" Iron's voice trembled. "Yes. Then please hurry. I'm dying from being unable to do anything. Our prince is waiting for us inside the barrier. Iron pleaded earnestly. I could feel how sincere she was about protecting Arenheim's prince. Our prince. Her trembling hands touched the surface of the barrier, but it instantly pushed her back. Got it. I added random consolidation system and constraints and amplifications to the key, then shoved it into the barrier. Powerful sparks crackled as the two magic powers clashed. I infused Stigma's magic power into the mystic key, and it seeped into the barrier. Both the barrier and the ground rumbled. Then, a crack appeared in the barrier around the key. The knights swallowed nervously. I poured in half of my remaining stigma. Clang! A sharp sound rang out, and a side of the barrier began to crumble. It opened! Iron shouted ecstatically. She burst into tears, as did the rest of the knights. They approached me, expressing their gratitude. Honestly, I was a bit taken aback by their overreaction. United States of America, Laraji's Devil's Castle. Meanwhile, Laraji lounged in her newfound home, waiting for her game to be completed. Thanks to her patience, the Americas were far more peaceful than Europe. However, the employees of the gaming company Leo were under immense pressure. They kept themselves going with drugs and potions, and 7 had already collapsed from stress. They worked without rest. It was all for the single customer awaiting their work. Lord Laraji, the game is almost complete. In a dark room of the Devil's Castle, Leo's CEO Varin bowed before Laraji. Laraji looked down at him with bored eyes, then skillfully typed on a keyboard. That's good to hear. What type of game is it? Varin glanced at the reply Laraji typed. It's a combination of training, battling, strategy, adventure, and travel. This game will surely be the greatest ever created. The countless hours his employees put in and the encouragement, from the demons, finally brought the game to its final stage. Naturally, Varin had mixed feelings. He worried Laraji wouldn't like it, but he was also excited about what he believed would be the greatest game of the century. I see, but would a human be able to defeat me in that game? How could a mere human accomplish such a thing? I don't like imbalanced games. I don't like. When these 3 words appeared, the demons' faces turned sharp. It won't be. Varin quickly bowed his head. The game will have a raid system. Explain. No human is capable of defeating Lord Laraji in a one-on-one confrontation. I have personally seen your overwhelming control, which surpasses human capabilities. In our game, a level 1 expert can defeat a level 50 player depending on their control. So, humans will work together to defeat me. A true test of skill. That is something I like. I hate luck-dependent games. Yes, of course. The demon's expression softened and Varin sighed in relief. But, Varin almost fainted at this word. You are wrong. Ah? Varin saw his life flash before his eyes. He was sure he would die. Wrong. Now that Laraji had said that, Varin knew there was no way out. Lord, please spare my life. There is one human who defeated me. Pardon? Varin's jaw dropped. Laraji skillfully moved her fingers and opened her record in a game called Gladiator of the Century. To Varin's surprise, Laraji had several consecutive losses. I assume you can see it. Varin's mind went blank. He couldn't believe someone had defeated this devil. Laraji was even more of a devil in virtual reality, since many renowned experts of Earth, like Hanks and Cheju Chal, didn't even know how to enter the virtual world. His ID is Extra 7. Laraji pulled up Extra 7's player info. Find him for me. Varin and Laraji's subordinates all looked dazed. Even the demons seemed shocked that their lord had lost. I witnessed unimaginable movements and game sense. At the time, I was simply angry at my consecutive losses, but now that I think about it, I have much to learn from him. As Laraji explained, the room fell silent, a devil admitting she had much to learn from a human. Varin was shocked beyond belief. But now that I am more experienced, I would like to defeat him with my own hands. Laraji smiled faintly as she typed her final sentence. In the demon world, one would be lucky to see her smile once in 100 years. Now that she had revealed her smile, the demons in the room all felt their hearts shake. Baal's Barrier, Destroyed Mansion.
Baal left Shin Jung-hak and Jin Sa-hyuk behind. Jin Sa-hyuk said Baal was likely constructing his devil's castle and that now was the best chance to stop him. But Shin Jung-hak sat in the corner of the destroyed mansion, unmoving. His heart didn't pound, and his body was frozen. With the image of the grandfather he respected shattered, he seemed lost in emptiness. "Yo, idiot, are you just going to sit there?" Jin Sa-hyuk called out. Shin Jung-hak didn't react. "Tusk, pathetic. Really, I've never seen someone more pathetic," Jin Sa-hyuk sneered. "We found Lady Serene. She's safe inside the underground bunker," an urgent voice called from outside the window. Shin Jung-hak closed his eyes, wanting to ignore everything. "Open your eyes, fool!" "Ah!" Jin Sa-hyuk stabbed Shin Jung-hak's eyes with her fingers. Wincing in pain, Shin Jung-hak opened his eyes and glared at her. "You piece of..." Normally, Shin Jung-hak would have cursed and swung his spear, but now he only sighed and slumped down helplessly. "You don't understand," he muttered, lost in thought. The reason he wanted to become a hero was solely because of his grandfather, Shin Myung-chul. He was proud of himself because he was a descendant of the man lauded as the greatest hero in history. Quack! Jin Sa-hyuk kicked Shin Jung-hak's shoulder. He fell backward without a sound. Jin Sa-hyuk clicked her tongue in frustration. He was the most heroic person among the fools who called themselves heroes. "Your grandfather, I've seen him before while traveling with Belle." "What?" Shin Jung-hak's expression stiffened, as if to ask why she'd never mentioned it before. Jin Sa-hyuk looked out the window and continued. "Shin Myung-chul risked his life to correct his mistake. That means he possessed the quality of a hero." Sss. A faint vibration shook the barrier. Jin Sa-hyuk's eyebrows rose. She continued as she watched the barrier. "So get up and fight. Didn't Belle tell you? Shin Myung-chul left something with you. Belle isn't a liar." Sss. The vibration grew, and a small crack appeared in Baal's barrier. Someone was clearly trying to break in. Jin Sa-hyuk quickly understood who it was. "If you still want to just sit there," she smirked, looking down at Shin Jung-hak, "then go ahead. Disgrace your grandfather's name all you want. A man bigger than you has just arrived. Someone like you is unnecessary." "What?" Hearing this, Shin Jung-hak's face twisted. A smile appeared on Jin Sa-hyuk's face as she stared out the window. Provoked, Shin Jung-hak slowly bowed up. Then he saw it for himself. Crack. A crack appeared on Baal's barrier. Shin Jung-hak's shoulders tensed. Jin Sa-hyuk continued to watch the crack and muttered, "Look, he survives like a cockroach and always comes crawling back." Boom! An earth-shattering boom rang out. A part of the barrier crumbled and a certain man emerged from the rubble. People like that are surprisingly cool. Kim Hajin. Next to him was an army of knights. Even Shin Jung-hak had to admit his entrance was cool. Bullshit. Shin Jung-hak snorted. He felt discomfort in his chest. He knew it was from his distaste for Kim Hajin, and it burned away his despair and helplessness. He doesn't look good no matter what he does. Shin Jung-hak laughed inwardly, realizing he was jealous. Right, he was jealous. After all these years, he finally admitted it. Didn't Belle say Shin Myung-chul was also a jealous man? Now that he knew his grandfather was full of flaws, he felt he could finally drop his high and mighty attitude. "Why?" Jin Sa-hyuk asked, with a mischievous smile. "Can't you tell by his average-looking face?" Shin Jung-hak sneered. The feelings he never admitted, the envy and jealousy that had driven him to his current level. "He doesn't look as good as me." After admitting it wholeheartedly, he picked up his conqueror spear.
Chapter 339. Republic of Leoris, Large Underground Bunker. Meanwhile, Kim Soo-ho headed to an underground bunker in the Republic's capital to evacuate the rescued citizens. The bunker, designed by Yu Yen-ha,
was fully capable of accommodating most of the population. Thank you, thank you. After smiling at the citizens' tearful expressions of gratitude, Kim Soo-ho made his way to Yu Yenha's office. A nameplate reading Bunker Operations Planning Office hung on the door. Inside, Yu Yenha was speaking to outsiders on the radio. Did you just say that the right side of the barrier was breached? This took Kim Soo-ho by surprise. Ball's barrier was difficult to break, even with his gift. Got it. We're protecting Miss Serene, so you don't have to worry about her. Keep up the good work. Kim Soo-ho was the first to speak. The barrier was breached? Yeah, apparently. Yu Yenha had a rough idea of who was responsible for the destruction. Naturally, she heaved a sigh of relief. I hadn't heard from him in a while and wondered if something bad had happened, but I guess he's alive and well. Who? Kung! The door swung open before Kim Soo-ho could finish his question. Both he and Yu Yenha turned to the entrance. Eileen stood there, approaching with an excited expression. Black Lotus is here! Kim Soo-ho and Yu Yenha reacted differently. What? Kim Soo-ho's nostrils flared in surprise, while Yu Yenha carefully observed both Eileen and Kim Soo-ho's reactions. Eileen nodded eagerly. Yes, and also Shin Jong-hak. At this, Yu Yenha could no longer feign indifference. She asked, trying to conceal her interest, Jong-hak is here? Yeah, I just got a call from Yun Sung-ah, and he's with Jin Sayak, or whatever her name was. Jin Sayak. Those 3 syllables made Yu Yenha uneasy. She turned her gaze to Kim Soo-ho in silence. Likewise, Kim Soo-ho had become stiff, like a fish left out to dry. Kim Soo-ho? Yu Yenha called him. Kim Soo-ho, still stiff, let out a sigh. What were they doing together? Jin Sayak and Shin Jong-hak. How should I know? But Sung-ah said they were heading to the Devil's Castle. Ball had built a fortress at the center of his barrier. Inside, Ball was gathering power to descend on Earth. Shouldn't we head there as well? Eileen asked. Kim Soo-ho nodded. Yes, we only have 2 days left, after all. We should hurry. 2 days? How do you know it's 2 days exactly? The book said this world was destroyed 3 days after Ball's descent, remember? The deadline was 3 days, but a day had already passed. Only 2 days remained. It was a short time, but they had to stop Ball from destroying this world and their home, Earth. For now, let's hurry. Kim Soo-ho took out a potion from his pocket and gulped it down. It might not be enough to relieve all his fatigue and wounds, but he had no time to spare. Okay, then let's go find Black Lotus and Jin Sayak first. With a smirk, Eileen grabbed Kim Soo-ho's hand and immediately activated teleport. The world began to shake, and Kim Soo-ho closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the Devil's Castle was in front of him. The shift was sudden, but he had no time to panic. Kim Soo-ho? A dry, disapproving voice rang out. Eileen and Kim Soo-ho turned back, surprised to see the 2 people they had just been talking about. Eileen Shi, your teleport is shockingly accurate. Yeah? Kim Soo-ho exclaimed in amazement, but Eileen only blinked rapidly and scratched the back of her neck, just as surprised. Did you 2 follow us? Jin Sayak and Shin Jong-hak stood about 10 steps away, scowling at Kim Soo-ho. Huh? No, we wouldn't say we were... Kim Soo-ho panicked for no reason. Were those 2 always so close? I remember they didn't get along well in the past. Whatever. You should get ready too. Jin Sayak said calmly despite Kim Soo-ho's confusion. Get ready for what? Eileen asked. Jin Sayak scoffed as if mocking Eileen for asking such a silly question, then pointed to the Devil's Castle in the distance. What used to be the presidential residence was now Ball's castle, surrounded by demonic energy and grotesque in appearance. That castle needs to come down. Huh? You? Kim Soo-ho's eyes widened in shock. The Jin Sayak he knew wasn't like this. Not long ago she had declared she would destroy Earth if she couldn't return to her homeland. No,
Jin Sayak shook her head with a cold smile. Of course, thought Kim Soo-ho, but then Jin Sayak's next words made him freeze. We're doing it together. Eastern Pandemonium. Vasigo built his Colosseum in what was once Harbin, a city bordering Russia with a view of the Korean peninsula to the south. The Colosseum, designed by the Demon Realm, was large and magnificent enough to be seen from both Korea and Russia. Because of this, the Colosseum had become a symbol of terror for many. Today, however, a hero arrived at the Colosseum of her own will. It's big. Master rank hero Jin Se-yeon, the divine archer, looked around the Colosseum in a daze. Only those who lack skill care about appearance. A heavy voice rang out behind her. She turned around. It's been a while, Archer. It was Chok Jun-gyung, as expected. His face broke into a broad grin. Jin Se-yeon was glad to see him smile, though she wasn't sure why. She smiled softly in return. It's not like we were close enough to share such a greeting. Who cares? We can get to know each other from now on. Chok Jun-gyung shrugged. Jin Se-yeon nodded. Though she had no idea what would happen in this arena, she felt confident that Chok Jun-gyung would never betray her. Oh right, you must know this since you're a high-ranked hero. Is it true that Orden is alive? Chok Jun-gyung walked barefoot and stood next to Jin Se-yeon. Their height difference was at least 40 centimeters. Jin Se-yeon had to tilt her head back so much her neck began to hurt. Well, if Orden is really alive, then that would mean we're really close to him right now. Jin Se-yeon answered without much thought. A long walk east of the Colosseum would reach Vladivostok, where rumors about Orden originated. Raise your eyebrows? No. Chok Jun-gyung raised his eyebrows, dissatisfied. That's not what I asked. I asked if he's alive. The residents of Vladivostok seem to think so. They worship Orden. Worship? Yes, according to them, it's all thanks to Orden that they live in peace in Vladivostok, a city long abandoned, without worrying about monster invasions. So it's true that Orden's been hunting monsters himself? I'm not sure about that. It could be someone else, someone strong but secretive, like Black Lotus. Jin Se-yeon shrugged. Chok Jun-gyung chuckled. Poof, all right, whatever. I didn't come here for a chat anyway. I agree.
Chek Jun-young and Jin Se-yeon stood side by side, staring at the arena. But they weren't the only ones watching the Colosseum. Many observed from afar, including members of the Chameleon Troupe who had followed Chek Jun-young secretly, and Vast Expense, who exuded his presence openly. Chek Jun-young stepped into the ring and took a deep breath. He then yelled at the top of his lungs, "Oi, old man!" His voice shook the earth and the air. Chek Jun-young called out to Vast Expense with enthusiasm, "Aren't you gonna come out?" His cry echoed through the Colosseum, but Vast Expense did not respond, only watching from afar. "Well, it's pretty obvious what that greedy old man is after," Chek Jun-young muttered, discontented. Vast Expense's reason for coming was clear. Vasigo had declared he would reward the victor with whatever he wished. Vast Expense was probably planning to ask for immortality. "Never mind those cowards. Let's go first." Chek Jun-young tapped Jin Se-yeon on the shoulder. Jin Se-yeon, however, seemed hesitant as she looked around Chek Jun-young, trying to locate Black Lotus, but unable to sense his presence. Was Chek Jun-young alone? Did Black Lotus enter the Demon Realm gate as well? Jin Se-yeon concealed her disappointment and began walking. "I guess you aren't called Divine Archer for nothing. Bah ha ha. Oh, by the way." Impressed by her boldness, Chek Jun-young beamed as he pulled out a card. Jin Se-yeon looked at it. It was called The Invitation Letter to the Love Room. "What's this?" "A card that lets me summon one of my friends. I know who you're looking for, so let's get along from now on." To her surprise, he was more tactful than she thought. Though Jin Se-yeon was embarrassed that he had read her mind, She soon smiled and nodded. Good idea. It's like the saying, the end justifies the means. Cool. And now, let's go. Yes, let's. Together, Jinsei Yan and Chek Jun-young walked into the mouth of the devil, Vasigo, side by side. The Republic of Leoris. Iron and her knights began fighting monsters as soon as they entered the barrier, wielding their swords to find and rescue the prince. On the other hand, Jane and I left. Right now, I didn't have the strength to fight monsters. Just breaking the barrier had consumed most of my stigma. Boss, can you hear me? The first thing I did was send Boss a message, but she didn't reply for a long time. Did something bad happen to her? Just as I began to worry, Boss's voice flowed into my ears. I hear you, Hajin. Her voice was cracked and frail, trembling as if she had been crying all this time. Where are you? I'm sorry. I'd like to be alone for a while. I never imagined Boss could sound so weak and pitiful. She refused my visit in a roundabout way. I sighed softly. Okay, then rest well. But it's just for today, because I'll come by tomorrow. Boss whispered. Thank you. Sure. I dismissed mental transmission without further ado. Boss seemed to be struggling, but at least she was safe. That was all that mattered to me. As long as she was alive, we could fix things. We could heal. A sense of relief swept through me. It was then. Oh, you're here. Someone grabbed me by the neck. When I turned around, I saw Shimurin. With a big grin, Shimurin looked at Jane and me alternately. I see you're with a woman disguised as a man today. Huh? Oh, haha. Shimurin saw through Jane's disguise at once. Jane stepped back in surprise. Why are you here, Shimurin-shi? Why do you think? I also have some questions for him over there. With a surprisingly solemn expression, Shimurin pointed at the Devil's Castle at the center of the barrier. I believe he possesses essential knowledge of dimensional migration. Ah! Once again, Shimurin's instinct was correct. Ball had confidently stated he could send Jin Sayuk back to her native dimension. Hey, are you also inside the barrier? At that moment, Che Na-yoon's voice flowed into my ears through infinite communication. Her voice sounded clear, which meant she was not far from here. What? I opened my eyes wide and looked around. It was then I realized the situation I was in. Yoon Sung-ah, Che Na-yoon, Kim Yong-jin, Yo-hei, Kim Harak, Lee Yong-jin, Iron and her knights, the Republic's aristocratic knights, and even civilians armed with shabby swords and sickles were all fighting Ball's monsters fiercely. I looked at Jane, then at Shimurin. Both of them were smiling mischievously. Jane whispered to me, "We have a lot of time." "Hey, you need to help us out. You're good at this kind of fight. There's just too many of them." At that moment, I heard Che Na-yoon's nervous voice again. I smiled and put my bow back in stigma. Then I pulled out the Desert Eagle. Well then? I had plenty of bullets, including the Basilisk's bullets. I transformed the Desert Eagle into a heavy machine gun. Keek, keek. The sound of machine parts colliding rang out. The Desert Eagle became a machine gun the size of a cannonball, its muzzle pointed to the sky. It had been a while since I last let the Desert Eagle take the form of a machine gun. Perhaps due to my growth, the gun looked much more intimidating now than before. Bullets fired from a gun of this size would be as powerful as bombs. We'll talk after we take care of this. But before pulling the trigger, I sent Che Na-yoon a message. It's me who's shooting now. A sentence as simple as that. Then I quickly pulled the trigger.
Chapter 340. Republic of Leoris. Whew. Che Na-yoon let out a sigh. The children around her began to cry, standing on the ruins of a collapsed building.
Nearby, a wooden plaque reading "Orphanage" lay on the ground. One of the children approached Che Na-yoon on trembling legs, trying to say something. Krrr. But the child fell to the ground at the low growl of a demonic beast. Don't worry. Older sis here will protect you all. Che Na-yoon split off a portion of her magic power and created a protective barrier around the children. Barriers weren't her specialty, so her magic power drained quickly, but it was better than letting anyone get hurt. Krrr. Whoa! A wolf demonic beast lunged forward. Che Na-yoon swung her sword, severing its head in a single stroke. Whoa, you can do it! The children inside the barrier cheered as she cut down the beast. Their encouragement gave her strength, but more monsters soon appeared. Geek! A loud screech came from above. Che Na-yoon looked up. Dozens, no hundreds of flying demonic beasts gathered overhead. I'm not good at aerial battles. To fight airborne monsters, Che Na-yoon had to infuse more magic power into her sword, extending its blade. That wasn't difficult, but she worried about the children. A single mistake could shatter the barrier and harm them. We believe in you. Don't die. The children's encouragement seemed to draw the demonic birds closer. With shrill cries, they dove down. Che Na-yoon gathered her magic power in Balmung and swung in a wide arc. The blade fanned out, obliterating everything in its path. Then something shot up from the distant ground. It left a curved line in the air, silent and swift. It reminded her of gunfire from a certain man. Wah! A moment later, a thunderous boom echoed. The sound of gunfire arrived after the shot. Wah! The line split into multiple paths. Che Na-yoon realized several bullets had been fired at once. The bullets traveled faster than sound. Only after piercing the beasts did the impact reach her ears. Whew! Che Na-yoon stabbed Balmung into the ground and leaned on it. Though still surrounded by monsters, her intuition told her the 24-hour battle was ending. Wah! Bullets rained down, decimating demonic beasts in the sky and on the ground. The bullets seemed to have a will of their own, curving and striking countless targets. Che Na-yoon breathed a sigh of relief. She knew this ally never missed. She could finally rest. Come here. She dismantled the barrier and gathered the children. At first, they trembled in fear at the gunfire, but soon realized it wasn't aimed at them. Che Na-yoon collapsed to the ground, catching her breath. Let's rest a bit. The children hugged each other and closed their eyes. Che Na-yoon sat in the center, gently stroking their hair and reassuring them. 30 minutes later, whoosh, the barrage of bullets stopped. A gentle breeze brushed Che Na-yoon's shoulders. She looked up at the sky. Though still dark from Baal's barrier, not a single demonic beast remained. It's over, Che Na-yoon chuckled. The endless battle that lasted all day ended in just 30 minutes. She couldn't help but admire Kim Ha-jin's gift. Is it over? Che Na-yoon messaged Kim Ha-jin for confirmation. A reply came about a minute later. Yeah, more or less. Che Na-yoon closed her eyes and smiled. She listened to the children's breathing. Looking down, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Protecting them was hard, but worth it. Hey, what's up? As her heart rate slowed from exhaustion, Che Na-yoon sent another message. Thanks. Kim Ha-jin didn't respond right away. After a long silence, a few words finally came. Don't say that. Che Na-yoon laughed. She understood what he meant. Kim Ha-jin always saw himself as someone to be hated, so she didn't reply. Holding the sleeping children, remembering those she saved and those lost, she felt she finally understood. If Kim Ha-jin had not killed Che Jin-yun that day, he would have become a devil and killed countless people. Che Jin-yun would have been forced to murder, never finding salvation. Che Na-yoon understood, but didn't say it out loud. Instead, she changed the subject. Where are you going now? Isn't that obvious? For both of us, I mean? Chain Ayun nodded at his reply. The final target was the villain behind the devils on Earth, Ball. She clenched her teeth. That Ball bastard, the one responsible for the rift between us, let's storm his castle and beat him up. Yeah. At that moment, Chain Ayun's ears perked up. Huh? What? She heard a voice from far away. It wasn't a mental transmission or a mystical message. It was a real, though faint, voice. Chain Ayun quickly turned east. In the distance, she saw the rubble of a collapsed building. Her intuition screamed. Kim Hajin was there. He wouldn't run if she came. He couldn't. She smirked, grinning before turning back to the children. I'm going to sleep before heading there, so go on ahead.
Kim Hajin didn't reply. She'd spoken aloud, not messaged him. Lying down with a thin smile, she gazed at the sky darkened by Ball's barrier and murmured, I'm thankful, but I can't thank you. I like you, but I can't like you. It's still like that for me. Jin Se-on and Chuk Jung-young arrived at the Colosseum's waiting room, guided by Vasago's servant. Inside, a fancy table and luxurious chairs awaited. They immediately took a seat. Oh? Jin Se-on exclaimed in surprise as the chair comfortably hugged her lower body. Lord Vasago is a renowned collector. Every item our guests see and use is a masterpiece in its field. Jin Se-on coughed, embarrassed by her outburst, but Chuk Jung-young only laughed. Way to act high and mighty with such cheap furniture. The stuff in our hideout is thousands of times better. Chuk Jung-young's snide remark was something the servant couldn't ignore. His face twisted, shoulders shaking with anger. He wanted to kill Chuk Jung-young, but held back, knowing his lord wouldn't want challengers to disappear. Please refrain from telling such lies. This Colosseum is under our lord's control. He could be watching you now. I'm not lying, you hunchbacked weasel. Have you been to our hideout, sat in our chairs, or lay in our beds? The Chameleon Troop's hideout was full of furniture crafted by Kim Hajin. To Chuk Jung-young, Kim Hajin's furniture was far superior. The servant fell silent. Jin Se-on noticed his fury and quickly intervened. Thank you for guiding us. Still, the servant glared at Chuk Jung-young. Of course, Chuk Jung-young didn't back down. Meeting his gaze with a proud smile, he was only thinking of relieving his boredom with a fight. Let it go. A voice rang from the ceiling, startling both Jin Se-on and Chuk Jung-young. The servant immediately kneeled. My apologies, Your Highness. Chuk Jung-young looked up. The voice spoke again. What you said interests me. Every item in my possession is of the finest quality. You say they are lacking?
Vasago wasn't as perverted a collector as Ball, but as a devil who specialized in treasures, Chuk Jung-young's words caught her interest. I'm saying the stuff in our hideout is better, Chuk Jung-young spoke confidently. The servant jumped in shock, while Vasago fell silent. Chuk Jung-young's confidence was natural, given the Chameleon Troop's furniture was made by dwarves, renowned for their craftsmanship. Vasago had obtained many dwarven weapons, but never furniture. Rather than that, your voice is more feminine than I expected. Chuk Jung-young changed the subject, curious about Vasago's gender. The silvery voice from the ceiling made him think Vasago was a woman. Devils don't have genders. It depends on the incarnation body. Right now, I am indeed a woman. Vasago answered, her tone generous but clearly displeased. In any case, I would love to see the furniture in your hideout. If you can get out of here alive, that is. Great! I'll bring your head to the hideout and show you around. Good. I hope that confidence isn't just human arrogance. With that, Vasago's voice cut off. The servant gave Chuk Jung-young one last glare before leaving. It looks like our theory is correct. Once they were alone, Jin Se-on spoke seriously. What theory?
that devils are naturally more obsessed with things than humans. Dins are humans influenced by devils to pursue desires, so devils must be the incarnation of desire. So what? Chok Jung-young frowned. Jin Se-yeon clenched her fists and sent him a mental transmission in case Vasago was listening. It means we might be able to defeat devils without fighting. All kinds of tricks can be used. Ball's Devil's Castle. Kim Soo-ho entered the Devil's Castle. The first floor was just stairs. Despite the eerie atmosphere, there were no traps or obstacles. Instead of worrying about enemies, Kim Soo-ho watched Jin Sa-hyuk, his technical ally. After about 20 minutes, "Do you have a plan for killing Ball?" Jin Sa-hyuk suddenly asked. Kim Soo-ho flinched, then answered seriously. "I'll cut him down. That's it for now." They only had 2 days left, not enough time for a detailed plan. Kim Soo-ho simply trusted himself and his sword, Mistletoe. "What about you? Do you have a plan?" Aileen asked, floating beside them with spirit speech to stay at eye level. Jin Sa-hyuk stopped. Her pause drew everyone's attention. "You do? Then tell us," Aileen urged. Jin Sa-hyuk looked between Kim Soo-ho and Aileen. "I'm going to ask Black Lotus." Kim Soo-ho, Aileen, and Shin Jung-hak all froze. Shin Jung-hak looked dissatisfied, while Kim Soo-ho and Aileen were more curious. Aileen asked, "You're going to ask him how?" "When I send the signal, he'll fire an arrow at the Devil's Castle. If it's him, he should be able to destroy the entire castle." "What? You think that's possible? Even my teleportation didn't work inside. That's why we're running up, remember? And if that was possible, why are we even climbing? We could just wait for Black Lotus to destroy the castle and—" "Quiet. I know he's capable. He'll destroy the castle from the outside, but we have to handle what's inside." Jin Sa-hyuk stood firm against Aileen's sarcasm. Kim Soo-ho kept staring at Jin Sa-hyuk. He couldn't understand why she trusted Black Lotus so much, or anyone for that matter. "Jin Sa-hyuk, what's your relationship with Black Lotus?" he asked. "What?" Jin Sa-hyuk acted offended. Muttering, "Kim Soo-ho, you bastard, you've grown arrogant." But then she smirked. "Actually, rather than Black Lotus, I have a relationship with Kim Hajin." "Huh?" Kim Soo-ho was speechless, unsure if he heard right. Before he could process it, Jin Sa-hyuk added more. "Kim Hajin has complicated feelings for me, so much so that it's troubling even for me." It wasn't a complete lie, considering the synchronization. It was also true that Kim Hajin's complicated feelings troubled her. Jin Sa-hyuk's words had a greater effect than she expected. Even Shin Jung-hak and Aileen were stunned. "That's all I'm saying. Is that so surprising?" Jin Sa-hyuk chuckled and began climbing the stairs again, her steps now more poised and elegant.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.